he could see the pain on their faces. I gotta say, this story is it was shocking to me. So Shannon, I want your reaction to the whole situation here.
Disappointed that as a coach, Skip, you go and you use a lot of cliches or a lot of analogies when you're coaching a basketball team. A lot of times we compare what we do to war, even though it's not war. You'd use a lot of those analogies. But for me, Skip, I get that you're trying to inspire your team, but that's one of the cliches that you go to. You know, nobody leaves the plantation. Now, I don't know what you thought a plantation was, but unless you own the plantation, it was not a pleasurable life for anybody else that lived or worked on the plantation. And for me, Skip, I used to drive around in my younger, and I'd go to these subdivisions, and it was this plantation and that plantation. Why? I mean, do people actually think plantation was a great life? That's what people actually think. And so he felt comfortable saying, well, you know what, plantation's not, no, I don't want anybody to lead a plantation. FYI, Coach McDermott, the black people all were trying to leave the plantation. They were trying to get the hell up out of there because that was not a pleasurable life for them. It might have been if you own a 1,000-acre plantation or 10, 15,000 plantation, sure, because it was a great luxury for you to have, but it was not for them. Skip, what about all hands on deck? I want everybody to go down, hey, we all going down with the ship. What happened to that? Nobody leaves the plantation? Wow. Although I don't believe Coach McDermott should lose his job, I would be okay, Skip, with a couple of games suspension. You know, a public apology if it's in order. But don't give me that BS about the players wanted you to stay. Because now all of a sudden, Skip, what you notice is that the players don't know what's in their best interest. When the players say we want to get paid, they don't know what they're talking about. But when it comes to being asking for forgiveness, the players know exactly what they want. So for me, I'm going to take him. This was a one-off. Hopefully it does not happen again. But I was extremely disappointed that in 2021, we still have to explain to some white people what's acceptable and what's not. We should be way, way past that by now, Skip. And I'm very disappointed that Coach McDermott had to issue this apology because it should have never happened in the first place.
I so agree with all you just said, and I always defer to you on the punishment angle to these controversies. And if Shannon Sharpe says, well, he should be suspended but not fired, I'm good with that. I'm just dumbfounded. It's inexplicable to me that a longtime college basketball coach who's 56 years of age could reach for that cliche. And it's not even a cliche because I don't even know what it means. I've never heard I've heard off the reservation, and meanwhile, that is offensive to Native Americans. So was he sort of mixing metaphors or combining cliches, or I don't know what he was talking about. So it makes me wonder.
Well, Skip,
go ahead.
And the thing is, Skip, you know who worked on the plantations. You know who worked on the plantation. So who do you think he's talking to? I don't want anybody to leave the plantation. I get Skip. And look, I understand we hit a rough patch and, you know, things are going to be rough, but I don't want anybody, all hands on deck. I need everybody to come together. Skip, I've heard a lot of analogies, some that can't be mentioned on air. Yeah. But I've never heard that one. And I've heard a lot. I'm from rural South Georgia. And there are a lot of cliches that I've heard that you can, radio or TV, even cable TV. Okay. But I've never heard this one.
I haven't either. So help me out here. Greg McDermott grew up in small town Iowa called Cascade, Iowa. But then as a 6'8" center, he played college basketball at Northern Iowa and then immediately started his coaching career at Wayne State, North Dakota State, back to Northern Iowa as the head coach, Iowa State as the head coach, and now Creighton for 11 seasons. Well, obviously, he's coached a lot of black kids, and I'm sure he played with and against a lot of black kids in college. His son is a pro basketball player, Doug McDermott, who obviously came up as a star in AAU and high school and college. And obviously he was playing with and against a lot of black kids. So how could you
Correct.
how could you not be enlightened enough? How could you not be, if you will, woke enough to reach for that cliche or whatever whatever that term is that he used?
Yeah.
How could you not know? How could that come out of your mouth? It's almost like it exposes your deepest mindset, which sounds racist.
Skip.
Right?
Go back and read the places what you say. Okay, you mentioned Iowa. You mentioned Iowa. You mentioned Iowa. You mentioned South Dakota. So what this tells me, Skip, now, maybe that's the first time he's uttered that in the presence of other blacks.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to see a scenario in which he has not uttered that around other people that look like him, talk like him, or travel in circles like him.
Yep.
Skip, cliches, you just don't make up really bigoted cliches
Yep.
or racist cliches off the cuff. Because you're speaking, because you have to be mindful of who I'm speaking to. So for him to just come off the cuff, he's had that down there. Maybe it was suppressed.
It was
and
down
then all
there.
of a sudden, he got to a point that it came up. But nah. He skipped now. Like I said, this might have been the first time he's uttered it publicly in front of a diverse group.
I agree.
But to say he has it at some point in time in all those Iowas and the Dakotas and if I'm not mistaken, isn't Creighton in Nebraska?
Yeah, definitely. It's
So
in Omaha.
you have to look. So Skip, it's not like he's traveled, gotten outside and been exposed to a whole lot of people that doesn't look like him, that doesn't sound like him, that doesn't think like him.
Okay, but I was so happy. One of his assistant coaches named Terrence Rencher, who is black, tweeted how deeply hurt he was by what his head coach said. That was a start.
Right.
But then this whole notion that Greg McDermott said before the game that he offered to step down, but that all of his players said, no, don't. We want you to coach us. Well, they're just kids, but did they really? I don't know. I'm not sure I buy completely into that. But to your point, there needs to be some punishment levied here, if not by the school, by the Big East, and I think there will be.
And Skip, don't give me that confidential. Don't give me that confidential stuff where you talk about, oh, it's confidential. Well, we're going to say we're going to do this and we don't do anything. No, because it wasn't kept confidential. We know exactly what he said. So we should know exactly what the punishment is. If you want to suspend him for a couple of games, okay. You want to suspend without pay. Skip, I don't want none of this paid administrative leave bullshit. What is that? You get a vacation and I still get paid? No, I don't want any of that. No, he needs to understand words and action have consequences, and his consequences need to be met with swift and hard. He needs to be punished for what he said.
Yeah.
So for me, Skip, like I said, I'm not all for this. One time. There doesn't seem to be a history of this type of behavior, but I think guys will look at him now like, I wonder what coach really be thinking, man. Because, Skip, all it takes is one time for people to change their perception of how they perceive you and how they look at you.
Yep.
Because, like, where did that come from? Nobody, what?
And Shannon, obviously the name of the game in college basketball is recruiting. And I don't think this will bode well down the pike for Greg McDermott to be recruiting, especially black kids.
Yeah, he came to my house. I was saying, nah, I don't want my son working on no plantation. I want my son to lead the plantation, so he ain't going to even go to one. So he ain't got to worry about leaving because he ain't even coming.
Wow. And just so you guys know, the Big East, they also released a statement. It said, there's no place in our society for language that evokes painful chapters in our nation's history. So we will see if he will be suspended at this point. But the word is shocking to me, and it's just hard to understand how that can still